Well, hello and welcome to Big Questions in 5 Minutes, in which I will attempt to take a big question and discuss the Christian response to that question and hopefully demonstrate how that response is best. And so far we've been talking about the problem of evil, specifically as it relates to this COVID-19 pandemic that we are all experiencing now. And so basically we're asking the question that if there is this God that exists, then why do we have something like this COVID-19 virus and the pandemic that goes along with it? And we've been making some general observations before we get into the details of this issue. And I want to make one last general observation before we go any further. And that is the fact that I think that raising this problem of evil reveals something innate that every single one of us has within us that I think is very telling. And that is, I think raising the problem of evil reveals that we all are longing for purpose and fulfillment. You see, this is the real force of the problem of evil. The real force of the problem of evil is not its logical aspect, it's the emotional aspect. It's that deep-seated feeling that when we see the evils in this world and we look around at all of the pain and the suffering that people are experiencing, we go, this is just not right. There seems to be something wrong with that. This world, in many ways, seems to be broken, or at least in some places seems to be broken. And I think what that reveals is that every single one of us, inside of us, deep down, have this longing that one day we won't have to see all of that suffering because it won't be there anymore. One day, everything will be made right. One day, the broken will be mended. One day, things will be perfect. And I think this longing comes out in many ways. We see this in our movies when a hero comes in and saves the day and ushers in a time of peace and prosperity. We can see it in art and music that can lift us out of our current situation and give us kind of an escape from the pain and suffering of the world for just a moment. And then we even see it in our fairy tales, because we end our fairy tales every time with, and they all lived happily ever after, right? I think this reveals the fact that we are all looking for purpose and meaning and something to fix all of the brokenness. And I don't think that the atheistic, naturalistic viewpoint can adequately account for the fact that everyone seems to have this. Sure, I think the atheistic naturalist can say, well, you know, people can create their own meaning and their own purpose. Even if there's no ultimate meaning, people can create their own. And while that may be the case, I do think there are some issues with that. First of all, what happens when the meanings of two different individuals conflict, or maybe even contradict one another? And then also, if there really is no ultimate meaning, how much can we say that trying to create your own meaning, even in spite of that, is self-deception, or at least distraction from realizing ultimate reality? Many, I think, will say, well, you know, science is what's going to usher in this time of peace and prosperity and progress. As science advances, things will get better and better and better. But I even question that assumption as well. I mean, I will be the first to admit that science has given us great potential for peace and prosperity and progress. But you know, we still have sickness, disease, poverty, and people that find ways to take advantage of others in very cruel ways. And I mean, if you think about it, after the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, not too far on the heels of that were 2 world wars. And so it does seem that while the advancements of science have given us a great potential for peace and prosperity and progress, they've also given us a greater potential for destruction. Not to mention the fact that even in spite of all the scientific advancement that we've made, it only takes one virus to virtually shut the whole world down. And so one wonders if science can really deliver on the expectations that people have given it. Can it really fill those shoes? Not to mention the fact that, or the question of how different is the faith of someone who says science is going to deliver these things? How different is their faith in science than the faith that others claim that the atheistic naturalist so vehemently criticizes? The fact of the matter is, Christianity as a worldview can deliver on that longing for there to be purpose, meaning, fulfillment, and the broken to be made right and mended. John in his Revelation, in Revelation chapter 21, describes the new heaven and the new earth this way. It's a place where God will wipe every tear from every eye, where there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And so what Christianity can say is that longing that every single one of us has inside of us that leads us to conclude when we see the suffering in this world that there's something wrong with that longing inside of us for that to be made right is real. It's correct, and it points to an ultimate reality in which God will actually do that one day. Christianity has the capacity within its worldview to deliver on the longing that every one of us has inside of us. An atheistic, naturalistic perspective doesn't have it. And if you compare Christianity to the other worldviews, it gives a more real realization of that fact as well. And so I think that is something worth considering.